Do you like complicated stories? Do you like simple stories?
I mean, I like both.
Okay.
So, but that's probably because I'm a writer. So it's like,
oh damn.
So you know what I mean? Like,
it,
technically.
So what got you passionate into writing?
I mean, honestly, I don't think I knew that I was a writer until I started making music.
Okay.
I have 3 younger siblings. All of us sing, but my sister Samantha, who's a couple years younger than me, she always was paying attention to lyrics. I think growing up, I was always paying attention to harmonies and melodies over lyrics. But by the time I started making music, finally, I really figured out how much I enjoy writing and how much I enjoy wordplay.
Do you remember like the first time that you actually sat down and how was that moment? How was that epiphany?
It was funny because I had not ever written a song before. And specifically I basically had an opportunity to try to write a song specifically for a movie that was being filmed through Sony at the time. And it was just like an opportunity I had with another artist. Her name's Blimes. She was like one of the first people to get me into like actually recording and writing music. But we had the opportunity to try and write a song for this movie that they could pitch for the movie. So it was a remake of an 80s movie, I think, called About Last Night.
Okay.
And it like originally, I think like Rob Lowe was in it. I don't remember the other characters, but they remade it. I think this is like early 2000s.
And then when you were writing this, did you already have like a concept of how to write songs, or
No.
were you just learning on the fly? Were you winging it? What was going on?
I think everything at that point was just what I would do naturally. Like I didn't have prior songwriting experience, but
did you understand already the concept of like I need a verse, I need a chorus?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had some idea.
Let's let a little rewind, because how were you when you started writing? Because I consider myself a writer. I never went to like write music though, but like poetically, like I went that route. I've never really put it out to like maybe on Facebook back in the day, but not as of late. It's all personal. I keep it to myself. But how long ago did you start writing that side where you went like just writing poems to now you're writing verses to then you're writing full-on song? You know what I mean?
I honestly think
because I feel like we gotta head to now you're just you know, who is Olivia? You know, before we even get to like you're at the peak of where we're at right now.
I mean, that, like I said, that was my first time writing a song. Like I had not written a song before that. I wasn't really out here writing poems. It was just more like for me, I was so I just wanted to try really. And at that point, I had been around, like my first introduction to anybody, being around anyone in the music industry was when I still lived in the Bay Area. At that point, I was living in San Francisco. I was around a bunch of hip-hop artists. Oh, snap. So I think that still actually has a lot of influence in how I write. Because I already subconsciously had paid attention to watching a bunch of people write.
And what they were doing.
Yeah, even though I started with
all you were like in the writing sessions with people already, like just peeping game and just watching.
Yeah, so paying attention, understanding like the multi-syllable rhyme schemes and stuff like that.
Breaking it down.
That hip-hop artists pay attention to because it's basically poetry. And there's a lot more... There's a lot more paying attention to rhyming and all that stuff, the complexities of the writing, I think, than like the R&B music I was listening to in the 90s and 2000s. Because that is a lot more about, like if you go back and listen to that time of music, it's a lot more about the sound and the feeling rather than the complexity of the lyrics. Like they're very straightforward. You talk about complexities versus simplicity.
Yeah.
It's like night and day, right?
Yeah. Because they're getting straight to the point. You know, the lyrics aren't really making you think. It's more like you're vibing to an emotion.
Right. Think about like Genuine. Like in those jeans, you know, like they're literally just it's very straightforward.
It's straightforward, it's very simple.
Song.
But then
exactly.
But then with hip hop you're doing double entendres, triple entendres. Yeah. And then it's like
when we get to the triple
there's multiple
entendres,
messages.
That's more like Jay-Z-ish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
J. Cole does that too.
Yeah, he got that from.
Yeah, but it's like you get to that point where that simple message can mean 3 different things. You know,
but that's what I love.
Okay.
I found out when I started writing. I think even then, I mean, I took a crack at it. I listened back to my very first song, the one I was talking about, and it's really not bad for it having been my first song. I've grown so much since then.
Okay.
But like once I started really writing and I continued to write and experiment and just like have the experience over 10 years at this point.
Sheesh, that's what I wanted to get to. You've been writing for 10 years then.
Yeah, so I've definitely been like working towards this for a good amount of years. I think I started in maybe like 2012, 2013.
Damn.
So
you've been around sessions, you've been around people, just picking up things and learning.
That's one thing is like I've always paid a lot of attention when I'm in spaces that people have been doing things longer than me, or they have more experience, or I admire their craft. I'm definitely paying attention.
So you're trying to see like what are they doing? How are they improving?
Yeah.
The way they're carrying themselves. All right, but into that moment, right? It's your first song. What was the pressure like? And what gave you that inspiration to then be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna write about?
Well, it was kind of easy because I had a movie that had already been made.
Okay, so you have a story.
Yeah, so I had never seen the movie. I think I either went and watched the movie or I just like read a breakdown on what it was about. Mm-hmm. The song title was literally about last night, like the movie title was gonna be. So now you have to put yourself in that scenario. Exactly. Like what happened last night. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what did happen last night?
Well, I think I have to like really think about what I wrote.
Let's sing the song. I'm just kidding.
And now she will.
And it's
first ever on the podcast. Live.
It's funny too because I listen back to that and you can hear so much of the influence of like 2000s R&B and hip hop together because it was a song like me singing and there was a rapper on it. So I used to. No shade now. I actually like really appreciate comparisons now in a different way than I did when I was young.
Because I didn't
want to be compared with anybody.
Right. So you wanted to be unique.
Yeah. So people like back then when I first started, because I hadn't really like found
your
myself
own voice
as much. Yeah, I didn't have time to cultivate that yet. It was just the very beginning stages.
That's self-awareness right there, though. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't even have that even at a later stage alone. That damn, I used to be like this, and then now I'm like, you know, that's dope.
I mean, we'll get to this like name change stuff too. I kind of.
So you went by something else.
It was like a whole journey because I started with just Olivia B. Then it was like Olivia Braga. Then it was Sampaguita when I was trying to connect to my Filipino roots. That didn't last very long because it was like hard for people to grasp. Like I couldn't introduce myself in a room and have them like they would have to ask like 3-4 times.
Yeah, like what's the name?
Which Sampaguita is the national flower of the Philippines.
Oh, it's not.
So it's a jasmine flower. So I
you
had that.
Definitely have like a EP like that, and then it will hit smash over there.
Oh, I have some ideas. It's not in the works right now, but it will be in the future.
Side question: do you speak Tagalog?
Man, no. So that's that, and that was another thing. It was like, I think at that point in time, like with that name change, I kind of like realized after I got to the point of getting back to my government name that all those name changes were like. Connected to the different ways I was trying to like find myself, if that makes sense.
That's dope.
Because after Sampaguita, I was Olivia.wave, like a wave file, like MP3 wave files. I come from a beach town.
Which town that?
Santa Cruz is where I grew up. And I mean, it was like I did Olivia.wave in the beginning just to make the handle easier for people to find at my shows when I would shout it out. But then I kind of liked it. So I tried that for a little bit, but now, for the last like few years, I got to a point where I was like, nothing else feels right. Like I've been trying to find, almost like forcing
Forcing yourself to find
to
an
find
identity.
like another identity, and then I got to a point where I was like, I don't need to do that.
You didn't need to be someone else. It's just be yourself.
It's just me. Yeah.
You don't need to create another alias, basically.
No.
You just got to be yourself.
Plus, like, all those names are, like, a part of me, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like how Nikki has Roman, she has this.
It's like alter egos that still reside within me, but I'm like, comfortable and confident.
Now you're coming into that show of Olivia.
This is me, you know? So, and I'm good with that. When maybe I wasn't before.
Fire.
But it comes along with like learning and growing.
It's a journey. It takes time to get there.
Exactly.
And you're still gonna evolve in the next 5 to 10 years also.
Totally.
That's the beautiful thing about life too, you know? Like we never stop growing. Like, and if I feel like there was this one thing a quote I heard back in the day was like, if you're not learning, you're dying.
I mean that's a good quote.
You know what I'm saying? Because like the moment you stop learning, you're already on the decline. Like you're gonna,
right.
You play any instruments at all?
I wouldn't consider myself to be a musician. I've kind of dabbled with guitar and piano, but like I remember like 4 chords from 8th grade guitar. I remember how to play some stuff from middle school and on the keys. But mostly like if I want to learn something over the years, I'll just kind of do it by ear. But it's not extensive. So I've fell more into, I love writing. I love vocal production. Like, I'll go into somebody's session if they want me to help with vocal production, and I'll help them find harmonies. I'll help arrange, like, where their vocals need to be. I like puzzling things.
You know what's dope? That I was, because I was listening to your song that you just dropped, Nirvana.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
I'm like, when I first heard it, I was like, I hope she has the lyrics to it. And then I saw that you had the lyrics.
Yeah, she has them up, yeah.
So I'm reading the lyrics and I'm just like, yo, she's a sick ass writer. Yo.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? And I'm
Thank you.
I was impressed because then, like I said, I've never put my work out there or nothing like that. Even though in my heart, God put in my heart that I got to write a book, or at least a poetry book, like 20 pages. We can do ebooks nowadays. So it's like, there's no excuse for me not to at least one day put that out.
Right.
You know, but just raw emotion about what I felt, what I've gone through, and where I'm at now or whatever. But it's dope to see that, you know, you definitely got a pen, and
Thank
to
you.
hear that, yo, I wrote that, you know, because you did write that all yourself, right? So it's like, it's impressive, yo. Like,
Thank you.
And I'm like, I'm kind of now kind of want to pick your brains as far as like, because there was a kind of breakdown in that song at the end where you kind of have a little flow. Do you like to go into that more in your music, or is that something that you just threw out there in this song?
I think that's become part of what I've discovered as like part of my identity, though, because I'm telling you, the longer I've been doing this, the more I look back at the whole journey. I'm like, okay, where have I picked up influence, inspiration? What have I figured out myself? And part of it, I think over the first part of COVID, because I moved home for like 6 months, and I was just home writing and recording, like unbothered with anything else for, like, I don't remember the last time it was like that for me.
It was like a pause, right? And you just got to do what
Ever I needed to do. And
like,
I was stuck at home with the family, which I loved, but reconnected with the family, reconnecting to my hometown, and reconnecting to myself and figuring out what I liked to make. At that time, what I was doing, and this is how I figured out that kind of flow, going from like the kind of angelic, melodic, very harmony-heavy stuff, and then going into like a melodic rap almost.
Right, that's hard. Exactly.
I mean, I grew up loving Destiny's Child. If you listen to their music,
they have a little.
They're almost rapping, and the fact that they can sing and harmonize at that like velocity and still be able to like move around the way that they do, that's basically like part of my inspiration, I would say.
That's why I feel like that's like the Kelly Rowland of the Destiny's Child, because she, even when you hear like Dilemma, the way she's like, they're singing that song together, and it's a duet, but like she's kind of, it sounds like she's rapping it too, you know? And it's
the pockets.
Right.
It's the pockets. And that's what I like, because at the time,
if I was a musician, I would do this shit, but I'm not a musician. I'm too shy to go up in that stage for real. Like, that shit's something else.
Yeah, I think I really found that though during that time, because what I was doing, since I wasn't necessarily working with producers at that moment, it was just me. So what I was doing was I was going on YouTube, and I was really drawn at that time to like more trap-ish beats. And I liked what I found as far as my type of vocal over something that kind of heavy. So it had a lot of like trap bass, all that drums and stuff that are more trap based, but I was still singing like an angel over it. You know what I mean? So I could, for a minute, I was like, man, I'm gonna call this angel trap. But but that's kind of where I found.
What made you want to call it Nirvana?
Nirvana, because it like that song. Honestly, that song was the first song. That's actually the first song me and LaDominic worked on together. That was the first song we ever did, and I love that song so much. That whole song was like all about being hopeful and finding this place basically in your mind or in your spirit that you have a renewed sense of hope after a lot of hardship. And you can really attribute that to anything. For me, it was a lot about heart.
Interesting.
But it's, like...
Hear that from you, yeah. That is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it could be about anything, and that's why...
But at the same time, I get like this love aspect you're putting into it.
Right.
Because the message I was getting when I heard it, because I've heard it a couple times, was the whole point of finding someone that helps each other heal each other.
Yes.
Instead of trying to tear down each other, it's like try to like build each other up.
Right.
But you're waiting to find the person to do that with, not just anybody.
And being hopeful. But like the biggest thing for me about the whole thing was hope. Because for a minute before I wrote that song, it's like I was still in that space that was just very like, I don't know.
You weren't
like,
vulnerable enough.
No, like I just wasn't at that point. But I also was able to write that and get to that space because I took a lot of time to myself. That was like, full transparency, I wrote that when I was purposefully and consciously choosing to be celibate. And like that was the first time that I chose to do that in my life.
That's like one of the hardest things for a human being to dominate that sexual desire.
Right. It's
so hard.
It's hard for a lot of people.
It is, but I've heard that once you hit that wall, once you surpass that wall, you go into another spectrum. I mean,
Another space of focus.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
And that's what I'm saying.
That's what came out of it,
I
right?
wrote music in a different way than I have ever wrote. And that specific song, Nirvana, was the first time I feel like I wrote a song finally that felt right to me, that felt positive and hopeful. Everything prior to that, I understood music was an outlet for me. So a lot of what was coming out for years was the more low vibrational aspects of what was happening inside me. Right.
Surface.
Right. So like the sad stuff, the semi-angry stuff, all of that.
So
and
like
it was,
7 C's.
Yes, 7 C's. I mean, listen to 7 C's. It's pretty, I mean, it's dope, but it's like very depressing.
Yeah.
And I still love that song for various reasons.
It's a season of your life, right?
It's a season of my life. It is very much so seasons. So I was happy though to finally get the chance to have like to channel something and have it come out of me that was like positive and made me happy. And to this day, listening to it, I adore that song. I adore it. And I'm like,
and I will say that the what Dom did too is add a melody that gives you that positive vibe. As you're listening to it, you're feeling that happiness. You're feeling like the emotions of, hey, like it's gonna be hopeful. It's like
exactly match. Because the timing of the song, for me at least, I'm going through stuff with my wife. We're in like hella transitions and stuff, and for me to hear the song and the timing of it, and like even right now she's not feeling too well, and then like in the last few times, like this weekend, I've just decided to take this different approach. So then the timing of the song, I heard it a few times before the podcast, and it was like, and then she's not feeling well, so kind of like you said, it gave me that hope where I'm like, like to me it's like. Well, then it goes back to what he's saying, how two people heal each other. And I was just kind of like, it's a trip just because of the timing of it. You know what I mean? So where did you pull that out of?
Like, you mean just like...
Was it a specific thing that happened to you, or was it something that you wrote the lyrics off of, like...
I honestly...
the moment, and you felt that in the moment?
I think for... Basically, like, kind of going back to what
it helped me right now today.
Which is good. That's like what I want to make... This is what I want to make music for. First and foremost, usually when I'm making it is to help myself. Like it's a way of release for me. It's expression. I need to do that, but like furthermore, I like figuring out the best way I can write something so that it can help various people. You know, or at least like not with the intention of, oh, this is gonna save someone. It's more just like, this is so honest to me and how I feel that someone else has to hear it and feel that and be able to tap into that. Right. And they can take it how they need to. I write about my experiences, sometimes other people's experiences, all of that, but that's the basis of it. But for Nirvana, I think at the time what was inspiring me about that was the fact that I was to myself, again, celibate for the first time in a minute, and consciously, purposefully. And I learned a lot through...
Hold on, I don't want to stop you, but it's amazing to hear a woman say this, that she's celibate and she's held. Because you don't hear a woman, like, say those type of stuff. Usually it's a man always saying, I need to be celibate, I need to be celibate.
Right.
And then to hear a woman do it and to then see that you're channeled this out of it, it's beautiful. Because now I'm thinking, like, maybe I should tell me and my wife we're going to be celibate for a minute just to see what comes out of it. You know what I mean? We're married, so it's not like we're going to stop anything. But at the same time, it's like, there's a lot of good that comes out of being celibate, you know, and having that, waiting for each other and being like, all right, this is, when we're going to
It makes you focus on a lot of other things. Right? Because you think, like, how many things in life are kind of tied to physicality and all of that. You know what I mean? It runs a lot of different...
I know this podcast is going to get this deep, yo.
Yeah, well, it's me, too. So this is the kind of...
I love it.
But also, it's like the intentions behind, like, people and then how you view people, you know? And the thing is, the energy that you attract and the people you attract. Facts. Also, like, when you're looking for that, when you're trying to scratch your itch, you're gonna attract a certain type of person that you don't want in your life,
right?
You know?
Facts.
And because then you end up in problems that you're like, well, why did this happen? And it's because you didn't learn how to dominate yourself and know that, hey, even though it's a natural need, you don't need to do this with everybody, even though it's a natural need.
It's
a balance. Like, and the thing is that sometimes it's not even talked about. Of like, hey, it's a natural need, but learn to balance yourself.
But it's crazy because like I said, the way that this thing hit me, I'm gonna say some personal stuff, is that I was hearing it, right? And I'm going through this thing this weekend where it's like, well, it's been the last 2 weeks where I had to find out something about myself where I was like, why am I being triggered by something my wife does, right? And then I started digging, and I was in the bathroom and just digging. I was thinking, like, walking, pacing, and then I figured it out. I was like, oh, snap, this girl in the past really hurt you. And it scarred you to the point that you don't trust any other woman. And then I started thinking, like, damn, but you married this woman. So, you know, and then I'm hearing this song today, and it was kind of like, because I've been trying to fight the feeling of my intuition telling me not to trust her. Because of the damage that's been done already, you know? Yeah. So it's like, then I hear him and the way he interprets the song is kind of dope because I interpreted it a whole different way, but then he says it that way, and I was like, oh, damn, you got that out of that? All right.
Right.
Yes, you know? So it's kind of, and then you say what you said, and you wrote it. So it's like,
but this is what I love about this is what I love about it.
So I'm kind of just
she's just geeking out like they actually heard it.
Right now,
they're actually breaking it down.
Because I'm kind of like I said, the timing of it is all, and I'm very big on everything happens for a reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, it just is a trip because it just, like I said, I found out something about myself this week, and I feel like even letting her know about it. Now, hopefully, we could grow past certain things that that we've both set the standard as being the standard of a relationship, that now it can no longer stay there because we now are aware of what some issues are and shit. You know, at least for me, on my end. I don't know about her, but on my end, I know where I'm tripping and where I could be like, the past is haunting you and you need to heal from that to move on. But thank you for the song. It's beautiful. Keep it up. Keep writing. I'm impressed because I'm like, damn, she wrote the whole thing. That makes me
so happy. Yeah, I mean, like, and just to like circle back around, and because I have a 10-track mind, so oftentimes I'll like sprout out like a bunch of different things and try to circle back. But the end of what I was gonna say is like at that time, since I was to myself and not connecting with people like in a physical way. And all I had was conversations with people and getting to know people's mindsets and all of that. And like coming from a space of feeling like I was like really battling like the trauma of being in maybe not not the best relationships, especially with men at the
Right.
time. Like having conversations with people I was working with, having conversations with friends of mine, having conversations with random people, gave me a sense of renewed hope because I was learning that not everybody holds the same ideology as some of the people I had been in relationships with that hurt me. You know what I mean? So like it was just that's really where it was coming from, was like this feeling of like, because I can't remember exactly what I said, but when I went into the session that day, like the way me and LeDominic started the session, he was like, well, what vibe are you going for? And I think I said something like either like angelic or ethereal or something like that, because that's like the way I was feeling at that time. And when he started the production, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I was just like, this is so beautiful. Yo, yeah, like he's so talented.
Fire.
He's just like, you give him like a keyword and then he'll put and he's playing the instruments most of the time too. So it's like, I really loved the production, and then that's kind of what came out. So
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, I just asked Dominique too if what he kind of had to do with the whole with the track. He said that he recorded you. You know, he made the beat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I would have to ask you is when you're making that beat, Dominique, do you already have that beat for her, or did you make it after hearing lyrics? Yeah, come through. I didn't hear them, bro.
Oh, yeah. Nah, definitely. It's just like what came to my mind just based off the energy and the vibe she was on at the time. And
because I always want to hear that whole two combo, how it goes, like with the producer and the artist, and how that combination works. You know what I mean? How that mesh and everything comes to then what we were listening to, you know, how that comes about. Because we heard the whole lyrical part too, but then you also
collaborated.
And you also have to hit it sonically so that it all hits the right way. You know what I mean? That's his part, because I'm an engineer too.
I gotta give him props though too, because like first and foremost, I know now, like he's one of the best people I've ever worked with as far as like being an intuitive engineer. I call him an intuitive engineer because I don't have to ask him half the time to do things as we go, right? Yeah. So we're just on the same page. On top of that, he's also a vocal producer, because in Nirvana specifically, I was just geeking out to my mom this weekend. I was like, oh my God, like two of my favorite backgrounds, and I'm a geek for backgrounds and harmonies, Dom fed them to me. Like, I remember him being like, oh, when you do that, can you do up, and all these like cute little like playful things in the background, and it's like my ultimate favorite. I geek out every time I hear it. So sorry. No, I just had to give you.
She hit the nail on the head.
Your flowers, bro.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. She hit the nail on the head with that one, because I was gonna say the same thing, that it's not something I can necessarily explain, because it's just, I hear it in my head, you know. Back when I used to work sweeping like the grocery store, I would hear music in my head, you know what I mean? I just didn't know how to get it out. So that was just me going on my own feelings and my emotions and how I felt at the time. And now I'm blessed to be able to do it for people that I work with, and especially talented people like Olivia.
Did she give you like the lyrics before?
No, I'm pretty sure she made them right on the spot.
So she just sang at the spot and then just started trying to figure it out?
Yeah.
Freestyling then? Oh,
shit.
Yeah, basically.
I think for that, we did like a lot of times, like for our process with how we work together, a lot of times like we'll go in, it'll be like, what's the vibe? Or what are you feeling? We might throw him around some keywords or feelings, and then he'll start production. By that time, like when he's like somewhat done, I'll go in the booth and I'll do melody runs, because I realized over the years when I started writing, I would write lyrics first and then figure out how they fit with melody. But when I started working with people over the years and seeing the different ways that they create music, I started trying the other way around first. So in this case, we'll do melody runs, because I feel like that's almost more like channeling sonically.
So question. Have you ever collaborated with just a writer? Where it's like, let's say I would write this, what I'm feeling, and then you sing it out. And then
Yeah,
you collaborate.
kinda.
Because I just heard you say that you place it into like you play with it to place it where it goes, right? The melodies and the lyrics and all that.
I mean,
And I feel like that's something that like I would love to be a songwriter. Because I feel like I have that.
He's like, be a ghostwriter. Here you go.
Not even. Nah, I wouldn't even want
You
to
go,
do
sing
like
this
that
for me.
because I'd be like, nah, let's collab. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Where it's like, just give me writer's credit, take
Right.
by, but then you just do your thing with it, or like. But that's something that I've always had like an interest in, maybe trying to,
Collaborating.
you know? Because one time I met there was this guy I met at the other barbershop. This dude did not look like a writer when I met him. Did not look like one.
Looks can be deceiving.
Right, and I was so, and that's when bro, I'm not to say nothing about you, Manny, or how you look, but he was a big guy, looking like big, but he was older, right? But his beard was super gray. Like your beard, but gray. All of it. White hair, it was crazy. And then when he told me he was writing for, I was like, nah, dog, you're not writing for, he's like, next time I come into the barbershop, I'm gonna show you a plaque.
Well, who was you writing for?
Next, Rick Ross and all these like, I was like, what? And then he's telling me that the reason why he gets picked up is because he's that old, but he adds old words to songs that, like they recycle words from like the 50s and 60s and they bring them back. And then that's why we're like saying things
And that has to do with language, because language is constantly moving. It's constantly changing. So every certain amount of years, words lose their meaning,
Right.
and then they have new meanings.
Change and shit, right?
Language is constantly changing.
So it's crazy how they would use it. Like Rick Ross would use this guy to use like certain parts of his either hooks
Yeah.
or lyrics where he's like, I need something like, and he would go in the studio with him. I'm like, what? So when I met him, I was like, yo, I could be 50 years old, right? And then Quincy Jones made like Thriller. He was 50 years old when he made that.
I mean,
So it's like,
the higher you
I'm
go
32,
too.
so I'm like, damn, I still got hope. Still, you know, like I seen Benny the Butcher, he's like 38 and still writing. Freddie Gibbs is older, so I'm like, man, he's still hooked. Like, not to be a rapper, but like I would love to be like writing music.
in rooms.
In those rooms, like, because I've seen photos of like Kanye West and he had Pusha T, like The Game, all these guys in there, and I'm like, man, I know you don't just writing that yourself.
No.
But it's beautiful that Kanye gives everybody credit.
Right. I was gonna say, I think the higher up in the industry you go, at that point, like the more people are involved in the process most of the time.
So it's like,
Yeah, I mean, you have access to whatever.
Got
You know what
you.
I mean? So it's like,
right now it's just you coming off the top.
for the most part, but the last few years I've purposefully tried to collaborate more with people because I was used to doing like the melody and lyrical. I was used to just it being me and a producer, kind of like how it was with Nirvana. But like slowly but surely I was like, let me try like writing with other people. And I like it. I'm great at co-creating because I don't have an ego. That's why. And like that's what's super important. I can only really work with people that also can like leave their ego at the door, where it's like,
How does that work when writing?
you just can't like I've been in spaces where it's just you get the energy and the vibe that it's not necessarily a
competition type
wanted
thing?
energy to have everybody participate, or it's like a space where like everything gets shot down super quick if it's not like the main person's stuff. Whereas like I personally enjoy working and co-writing with people that are able to be like, you know, that's good, but can we do better? Like it doesn't have to be
An automatic yes.
and it doesn't have to be an automatic no either. Like it's just more like we are working together to
pull the best out
create
of each
the
other.
best piece of art that we can, and don't take it personally if we try to make a piece of it better. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter whose idea it was.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not like that. So that's at least who I enjoy working with.
So there'd be the Debbie Downers in there sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you don't need those negative vibes.
No.
To make music for sure.
No, definitely not.
I would love to be in the room sometimes and just write. I mean, me and my brother have always talked about shit, and then I told Manny I want him to be in there in that.
You want me to write Spanish for you?
No, not write Spanish. Not even. I wanted him to be like the Diddy that says yes, it sounds good, and no, it doesn't
Yeah.
sound good.
It's because
He has good ears. He
I
has
listen
good
to
ears.
a lot of reggaeton music.
Okay.
So like I know a lot of Spanish stuff, and then I always teach them new words.
Where are you from?
She's Filipino.
Full Filipino or?
My
She
dad-
has a Spanish name, I mean, but
Braga. Yeah,
Yeah.
my dad's from the Philippines. My mom grew up in Maine. She's a white girl.
Okay, so you're half white and half.
Yeah.
Sick.
Technically Irish and Scottish if you want to be like super pinpointed. But yeah, so I have.
Island, huh?
Yeah, I gotta go visit.
How many times have you been like confused for a Latina?
I wasn't gonna say that too.
Well,
her name is. If I say it in Spanish, Olivia Braga. Like
I mean, exactly.
That's Colombian as hell, huh?
I think Portuguese.
You're not Colombian, girl.
I think Portuguese, high key. Like I remember looking up the origin of the name, and a lot of times what'll come up is like.
Oh, that's Portugal is next to Spain. So
yeah, and yeah. So I mean, actually a lot. Also dependent on like how I present myself, like depending on my makeup and like what I'm wearing. I think either I look like way more Asian or kind of Latina.
No, it's funny when you came in. I thought I was gonna say Hawaiian.
That too. Honestly, I get.
It's the fit.
I get.
You gotta button down.
Yeah. She acts like she came from Honolulu. She came from Honolulu.
And then check it out. The Nirvana, the cover for Nirvana. I was like, yeah, it gives me Hawaiian vibes.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I get that. I've gotten that too. I've gotten a lot of different ethnicities, but
the other one I don't know is random.
And do they talk to you in Spanish?
Yeah, a lot.
What happens when they talk to you in Spanish? Like how do you shut them down?
If I can,
all Salvadorian, just ask
if I can answer, which is not very often, if I can answer, I will try my best to answer.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, I'll kind of be like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, or I'll be like, I'm Filipina.
But the opposite happens to me.
Really?
I'm confused for Filipino.
That's so funny.
Wow, no.
How do you
right now that you
it?
said it,
You
bro.
see? But
I just saw it right now.
every time I go to Seafood
I'm
City,
dead.
bro, they start talking to me in
Okay.
Tagalog, and I'm like, I'm not from there, but all right.
Hey,
You
yo,
start learning the language, bro, so you can talk back.
Oh
The
man.
other day I was watching this one thing where it was like an Asian podcast and there was like one Hispanic on there, right? And then the guy was talking about like he broke down all the accents from like all the Asian people, the community, and he's like,
I think I saw this.
Did you see this shit?
I think I saw this.
Yeah. I was dying, yo.
Man.
Because he had it so down pat. That shit was crazy.
Yeah, I was listening for the Filipino one. I was like, is he gonna get it? Is he gonna get it? But yeah, I was just talking about Seafood City too, because I went home, so I had some like tinola, and I had some I made like a little like pan de sal breakfast sandwich this morning before I left. I was all excited.
But that's what happens to me when I go there. They start talking to me, and I'm like, same thing like you. Just start looking at them like, I don't speak this language.
I should know, but I feel a little bit like I should know more though. Because I was really shy when I was younger, but growing up in Santa Cruz, I would say that like a majority of the people the community that grows up there, it's like 50-50, like it's a lot of white, a lot of Mexican. So I gravitated towards, I only grew up really with my Filipino family. So I felt like more comfortable and like more cultural similarities with like all of my Mexican friends.
Right.
So for a little bit, I was like, dang, I know more Spanish than I know Tagalog. It's kind of crazy. Like, I'm over here like,
California was part of Mexico.
Like, I feel like I should have already known.
No, but even
more
in Tagalog, there's Spanish words.
For sure.
There is Spanish
sure.
words in it.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to remember that
they were
Spain conquered the
400
Philippines.
years.
Yeah.
For a long time.
So part of their dialect, they do have Spanish words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. They've been
Because there's some words where I was like, okay, I understood that part of it. I was like, but then once they add the other stuff, I'm like, okay, I don't understand that.
Even like I think it's like variations of what maybe was heard that was in Spanish, and then they sort of like molded it into now Tagalog words. Because even if you think about like what is like ¿cómo estás? And then it's like because in Tagalog it's ¿cómo ka? Yeah. Like how close is that? You know what I mean? It's there's some similarities for sure.
And then I've also heard that may be one of their main ones, but even when you go there, there's a bunch of other dialects as well.
Yeah, definitely. Depending on like the different provinces and everything. So, like I think my grandparents.
Have you been?
I only went once when I was like 15, so it's been a while. But I want to go back really bad, and maybe like go to some more different places because when I went, I just went to the city, like where my dad grew up, but I would like to go like where my grandparents are from. And, but yeah, there's a lot of different dialects. Like I feel like my grandma definitely at least spoke 2, if not 3. But yeah. So.
And how was it getting along with Mexicans growing up around them?
It was great.
She's like, it's great, really great.
I loved it.
What did you learn from them? What did they teach you?
Man, like I feel like it was you gotta put me on the spot.
Salvadorians. You grew up with any Salvadorians, man?
Honestly,
there was none,
no.
bro.
One girl.
This is the first. This is the first ones that she's meeting, bro.
Who's this one girl that you met that was Salvadorian?
It's been so long ago. I don't even know if I remember her name at this point. Like I was just thinking this morning.
Shout out to the one girl that was nicer, Olivia back in the day. Salvadorian.
But yeah, I feel like I'm being tested right now. So.
No, you're not.
Yeah. You almost done with the Cheetos?
For real, bruv.
I told you the munchies. Up on camera and everything. But we were waiting. I was just smoking up. I was like, yup, it's going down.
I have like a love-hate relationship with hot Cheetos.
Really? We're going back to hot Cheetos then,
Huh?
What's the love-hate relationship with it?
I mean, they're addicting.
That's the issue.
I think that's the love-hate relationship that they're addicting.
I want to eat them when I don't want to eat them.
Yeah.
It make me sweat.
I'm curious though. What's the next step right now? Have you performed before? Have you done shows? Or are you gonna try to do that next with these?
South by Southwest.
Is there more singles coming out? Like, where are we at there?
We talk about future
You're on a
now.
podcast. You got to spill some beans here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I'm excited about that. So I did do shows a lot. When I first started, I was thankfully I was able to like test the waters, and I got put on to this local show. They would have shows in Chinatown, and it was every month, and I was getting put on every month for a little bit when I first started. So I got to try everything. Like I performed with just a backing track. I performed with a DJ. I performed with a whole band. I performed with a harpist. One time it was just me and a harpist. I want to do that again so bad.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
It was great. It was awesome. I'm going to do it again at some point. But I did that for a while. Then I kind of took a hiatus, especially with COVID. And I did like the first show that I've done for like 3 years, like a few months ago at this point. I'm definitely going to work on lining up some more shows. I just kind of wanted to be able to put out another single. Yeah. I have some other stuff lined up, so I'm definitely going to release something in June. Okay. I'm going with singles right now.
Definitely. So. I feel like that's the trend among a lot of artists.
Yeah.
To just go
single and then like a little EP and
exactly.
Then an album.
So I definitely have a lot of stuff I'm sitting on, so I'm happy to be letting go of it. And he's not here right now, but I was going to tell him earlier that he needs to like let go of his, if he's going to write a book, he needs to let go of his poetry and everything. Cause,
and let it be alive.
Yeah, because you give the energy out, you're going to receive energy back in, you know what I mean?
Back, yeah. So, new inspiration, a new muse.
Yeah.
To be able to write something new.
I'm happy. But it took a long time for me to be comfortable with like outputting. Because I was very
conscious about it,
meticulous and almost like over meticulous.
Like you were being
where I was
hard
like,
on yourself.
Yes,
like you were trying to be like, I needed to be perfect.
It could be better. It could be better. It could be better. But I'm.
And then you would never.
Then I would never like release it because I'm like, oh, it could be better. This could be better. But now I'm at a space where I'm just like, man, it is what it is.
That's a question we had for Dom too last time when he was here. Was like, when do you know it's enough, that you've done enough? Because even as a producer, you want to like sometimes, well, I could do this or I can add this, you know. And it feels like that's always a thing with a lot of artists, that they get to that point where it's like, how do you know when you're done?
Right.
Because you always have that feeling of I can do more and I can do more.
It's become easier because I think settling into the idea that what comes out at the time of creation is like, again, at this point, I feel like it's a form of channeling. Mm-hmm. Like if you just let it flow and come out, that's what it's supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. So at this point, I don't have to go back and overthink and overanalyze as much as I did when I was first starting.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you do it? writer's block?
I hate it, but also sometimes I think it's needed because if I'm not writing, then I'm usually doing something else creative. I find somehow, some way, I find a way to be creative, no matter what I'm doing. When I had really bad writer's block, I think this was even before COVID. I had writer's block for a little bit. I was so put off by it, and I remember going to, I had a homie, and his friend was a producer, so I was like, let me try to link with your roommate and see if we can make some music. So I remember going over there. We actually didn't even end up working, but I had a really inspiring conversation when we were all in the kitchen. One of them was cooking. I was like, man, I'm so sick of writer's block. Like, I haven't been writing for so long. It doesn't feel good to me. But, I've been doing a bunch of other stuff. Like, I learned how to cook. And when he heard that, he was like, you never stopped cooking. You never stopped cooking. You just did another form of cooking. Cooking is a form of creating. And I really thought about it, and I was like, yeah, because sometimes I'd be freestyling, and it comes out bomb.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it's always something. Like, the last time I kind of felt a little bit of writer's block, I poured into, like, I've been wanting to kind of create, like, a side page and account on, like, TikTok and Instagram where all of, like, my spiritual and healing things I'm inspired by are gonna go on that page, and I call it Live My Light, and I've been starting to make like mantra bracelets that I have available sometimes for people to buy if they want, because it helps me. That is a form of creation. When I haven't been able to write, I'm doing that, and when I first started making them, I was like, wow, this is really like kind of like writing in itself, because I have to decide, like the one I'm wearing right now, it says spark on it. The color inspired me because orange is like connected to like your sacral chakra, I believe, and that kind of runs creativity and expression. And so I was like, oh man, it reminds me of creativity. It also kind of reminds me of fire, so I was gonna put fire on it. Or no, I was going to put creativity. Then I was like, I'll put fire on it. I was like, nah.
That's so crazy.
Let me put spark on it, because guess what? A spark could be a spark of creativity and sparking a flame. You know what I mean?
That's so crazy that you're saying that, because I have 2 bracelets also myself that I kind of put my significant... Everybody knows what WWJD means, right? But I put a green one on my cutting hand because I make money with this hand, right? So I kind of like... I purposely got a green one because I was like, God bless this hand, and what would Jesus do with this hand? He would bless others with it, right? So I put that. Then I have the other side. It's a black and white one where it's like dualities, 2 sides to everything.
Yep.
You can't always just fall on one side, things like that. That I'm like, you have little mantras to it. I'm like, that's crazy. I created my little mantras, and why I have picked these colors, because people have asked me like, why do you have a green one and a black one? And I'm like, this is why.
Yeah.
So if you ask me at the shop, and I've never answered that.
Now you know.
I get tired of answering that sometimes. Like, why are you? And then
now
some
they
people
know.
be like, where'd you get it? Like, and I'm like, Amazon, bro. Amazon. But
still sell
these I have from like a homegirl named Sarah. So shout out to Sarah.
Shouts out Sarah.
For sure. But I'm gonna have to get one of those, yo.
Yeah, I've been like having a lot of fun making them.
That white one looks dope.
The white one is rose quartz. I got rose quartz on me today. So I'm all into crystals and stuff. I like all that stuff. It's helpful to me.
Would you ever go digging for them and like excavate for them type of thing?
If I could find a place to do that, I would try it. I would
I've
put
seen,
like a crocodile Dundee hat on or something. And
I've seen like the when they find like the amnesty stones and all that stuff. Like,
where's that at?
I don't even know. So they're in different countries sometimes, bro. Like, it's pretty wild. You know what I mean? Just because like they see it and sometimes it's stuck and they have to do it the right way so they don't break it.
Oh,
and
that.
All that. Yeah. Like
I've seen that,
for me,
actually.
like I'm not too crazy about like the stones like itself, but the whole going to find them. That's pretty
fire.
badass to me, yeah. Because
like,
then you just see,
like
I don't
the
know,
way
you
they
just
look
see
sometimes,
it
like-
within all the dirt, you just see purple out of nowhere. It's like, oof.
Isn't that interesting
Perps has
though?
always
Like,
been, whenever I
like
see perps, it's always been like,
what interests each different person about one thing is like so different sometimes.
Right.
Like he's like, I crystals or whatever, but the process of finding them is fire. You're like, oh, I like what they look like. Like,
yeah, but like something about it,
She
you know?
puts meanings behind them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all like, I'm getting this because
Honestly,
it's supposed to
me
be
too.
good for XYZ, and when I look at it, I'm gonna think of XYZ.
I'm gonna sound materialistic
You know?
as fuck, but I also see how much they're worth, and I'm like, Like if
I
I make
mean-
a trip to another country and I'm like vacationing and I find this, it's like
He all has a trench coat on with like a bunch of
you know what I
crystals
mean?
lining
Like,
the
you know what I mean?
inside.
Like,
He's
bro,
hey,
that
what
pays
you-
my trip, you know?
I mean, it's easier than getting a tattoo. That's what she just did too.
Wait, what?
Because a lot of people get tattoos in order to do the same thing, right?
Do you
that's
guys
why
have
I said-
tattoos?
I
He
have
does.
tattoos.
And that's why I said it's
I don't.
it's
You don't- Manny, you
easier.
have tattoos?
I'm ink free.
I don't.
Man, he's tatted up all over his chest. It just isn't show. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's all hairy.
He's got thug life all over it.
What does it say? What do you have?
I'm just kidding. No, he
This is
doesn't. I'm
messed
so
up.
It says be
kidding.
legendary in his chest.
He's the only one that has tats.
Yeah, I got tats. Got. You don't have tattoos?
No. No, like, I mean, I've thought about it more recently, but I don't know.
No, but
nothing wrong with
that's
getting
why
tattoos and
that's
not getting
like people
tattoos.
do that too at the same time though. Is I've seen people like they'll get verses tatted right here or they'll do something here, but it's the same thing. It's like where they want to look at a message and remind themselves about something.
I mean, that's why I got
That-
mine. I mean,
that's
my
why-
thing- my
that's why
tattoo
people do that as
was
well.
About, I got it in remembrance of rest in peace Nipsey Hussle. But then to me, it was like, what does Nipsey Hussle mean to me, and what did I learn from him?
Right.
And it was like the marathon continues, all money into whatever you want to go after, you know. So, and then I put my shop logo, so I was like, the marathon continues, all money into new life. That's what I like.
Right.
And then I told the artist that, and this is what he came up with. So that was dope to me, at least. So
See, I enjoy tattoos. I like tattoos. I like symbolism. So they're always interesting to me. But up until now, even, I'm like, man, I'm maybe a little bit indecisive, like too indecisive about that.
You gotta be real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe.
And you can't waste your real estate.
Yep.
Because if you get a bad one in a part of real estate, then it's like, man, then I gotta cover it up, or
I gotta be ready if I'm because I know myself, and I'm also sometimes very extreme. So it's like I know that if I start, there is a chance and a high possibility that I will not stop, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna be like completely just blasted. So it would be
So it'd
a
be
whole
like sleeve here, sleeve here.
my whole neck, like just everything. Yeah.
Those are the ones I've always disliked that girls do, like either facial ones or
I don't think
neck
I would do
ones.
face. I don't think I
I'm
would do
like,
face, but
don't do
possibly
that.
neck because the way I would do it would be very beautiful. So
You would do the butterfly here? Or
no,
what?
hell no, no butterfly.
A lot of people do that.
I mean, I know I got the butterfly clips in the hair today, but no butterfly on.
No butterflies.
No,
I got it.
but I would be more into floral stuff. I think.
The other thing too is mantras, right? The mantra thing is repeating something to yourself until you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and that's a part of like changing the way that you think. Is
Mm-hmm.
that the more you repeat something, the more you want to convince yourself that that is true. Eventually, you can convince yourself that that's what you believe.
Yeah.
So I see that other thing where you're like, oh, I have this also for my mantra, and you're talking about positivity and being in a different mindset than you were before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all that symbolism for you helps you achieve that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that, I mean, for me, that's like the power of words and the power of writing, because it all goes together, right? Like that's why I also write music, is like messages. And it's crazy because sometimes I look back, even just to journal entries, I'm like, damn, that's crazy how I wrote that. Or like, if I can't, something I started doing more recently is if I'm having any type of writer's block, and the most that comes to mind is like, okay, I'll have a bar. Or I'll have something that I said in my head and I'm like, ooh, that's a bar. Because I joke that sometimes I speak in bars. Especially when I'm lit. Like if you go to my Twitter, it's kind of crazy
Damn.
over there sometimes.
So if we
But
would have give you a drink right now, you would have been like methodically like spitting bars to us. You know what I mean?
possibly.
Oh, that's what you need.
Possibly.
I
But
got some
see,
Hennessy.
I don't really drink like that anymore.
We're the podcast.
I got to tap in without alcohol.
I feel you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm good at that now. So it's like, you know.
Tapped in.
Because at the same
Tapped
time,
in.
it's like a crutch. Why do you always need that every time you're going to write?
Right. Like, I think that was like, I'm not really a weed smoker, but when I first started like going to my own studio
Well, you have a
sessions
song
and-
called Backwoods.
But
right?
did you listen to it though?
Backwards in the bedroom.
See, it's all about, it's the only song titled Backwoods that you'll probably ever hear that talks about not smoking. Because basically just a way to describe someone I was seeing at the time that would leave their backwoods all over my apartment because he'd always be smoking in there. So I was like, backwoods in my bedroom again. It's like saying without saying.
Same shit, different day type shit.
You know, yeah. It's not me smoking, but I'll Google how to roll up your weed if I really like you enough.
Fire. Damn. Ride or die, y'all.
That was a ride or die.
That was a bar right there, bro. That was a bar.
That was a ride or die bar.
I literally say that in the song.
I haven't heard that, but I need to hear that backwoods song.
Yeah, I released it on 420 because
we briefly played it. We're waiting for you to come here. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I for like 3 years consecutively, I was like, I should release it. I should just drop this on 420. And then finally I did it. This last 420.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
So this year you've been dropping a lot of songs consecutively then?
Yeah, so I started last year I started dropping some of my demos that I probably, like I knew that I probably wouldn't do anything with them, but I still wanted to put the energy out and release it. I dropped some of my older demos on my SoundCloud, but right now I'm putting out like the stuff that feels more complete. That I didn't just like record myself in my bedroom, like I actually recorded in a studio, got it mixed and mastered right, all that stuff. So I'm excited because it's been a long journey, but to be at the point where I'm like, ooh, let's let it fly.
Now you feel you're ready.
Lastly, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, musically and life?
Where I want to be and where I see myself actually and truly is like I'm gonna be in a better position than I am now to be able to like live my life in a way that I feel is like to the fullest that it can be, and that is inclusive of I'm making music, I'm being able to collaborate with whoever, and it's all like in alignment. Making, my living off of all things creative and or spiritual. Like my main concern and goals in the next 5 years is to be able to keep outputting what I create. And also to be able to help people like with their healing process, I think, because I'm continuously doing that for myself. So I know they're connected. For me, they're connected.
Being a beacon of healing.
That's what I want. I mean, if I want that for myself, I want it for everybody else. So
when you're not creatively making music for yourself or doing something creative, as far as my bad, when you're not creating music, what are you doing anything else in music? Like,
you mean if I'm not making it for myself?
Yeah. Because I saw something in your bio that kind of
I've done a lot of background
vocals.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So, that was actually like other than like when I started writing, my first like gigs actually in the industry were all background singing. So I was fortunate enough that all the people from the Bay that I've met that are also in music, somehow we all crossed paths eventually and like kind of flocked together. So at the time I was working with a lot of people that moved out here from the Bay Area, and one of them, his name's Cambo. He's a great writer. Shouts out Cambo and Louie. They were like the first people I ever worked with. And maybe second or third actually, but like it kind of goes all together with my first experiences. Cam was interning for Yeti Beats, who is Doja Cat's, one of Doja Cat's main producers and managers. So I was able through just like friendship and connection, be able to have the chance to sing backgrounds for Doja Cat. And this is like when she was like 17, 18. Oh, wow. So like very long time ago before she like really popped off.
That's crazy because I knew, or I had worked with basically her music director for her live band.
Okay, cool.
He would come in and kind of track some stuff because remember at the time it was for COVID. Okay. She was doing like virtual performances.
Isn't that wild? Like
yeah, you know what I mean?
Everything was all virtual. That's crazy.
Yeah, so he basically came in to just track drums so that she had a drum track with her performance, her virtual performance.
Okay, cool.
So, but yeah, it's crazy how that you worked with her before, even way before that.
That was like, it was like when her most known song, I think, was like the Cal? So High. Oh. This is before Cal? That one, like, Ooh. That was a long time before. What was that?
You didn't know about that song?
Wait, how'd that go? Okay.
Am I wrong? That's how it went, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
crazy. She was my high
First
school.
time hearing it here,
dancing
bro.
with yeah, so
One more time.
I got kids, I played at the house all the time. I got kids. I got 3 kids.
The intro to this whole interview, you guys need to green screen the same green screen behind him and just cut to him.
Be like, moo.
Yeah, he's doing the remix.
Get out of here. That'd be
My
so
kids are gonna
funny.
love it.
Oh
Trust me.
man, yeah. So that was really cool.
Daddy, you gotta moo again. You moo.
That was really cool. That was a really cool opportunity, especially like a first opportunity for like a gig in the music industry.
Yeah.
Through that, like it's actually really cool just being able to kind of continue and keep moving in the journey through like meeting people, right? So like in that case, Doja Cat's band at the time were the Free Nationals, who was also simultaneously Anderson .Paak's band. So that's how I got connected with them. Then I was like playing with the band
crossed, yeah.
and then started doing in-studio background vocals for Anderson .Paak. And then through that, actually taking it back to Doja Cat really quickly, when I got offered the opportunity to do backgrounds for her, I was asked to help recruit another background vocalist, and I met my friend Mia. She's also a very talented singer. Everything comes around full circle because after like the Anderson studio backgrounds, later on in the timeline, Mia came back around and then recruited me to do a festival for Willow Smith. So it was like, you know what I mean? Like it's just
I'm looking
like
at all those. I'm like, how is that all
together.
gonna get to the next artist on your
Right.
bio? That's crazy. How
But
that's
it's all
just-
like intertwined and it's all
Networking.
just,
It's
you
all
know,
connected.
like, so it's cool. And I'm super grateful for all of those opportunities because I was able to learn so much from
Then
that.
you give that vibe that you don't burn bridges, so it's always like a two-way thing where like she's gonna call you and then you're gonna call her and it's like vice
Yeah,
versa.
I mean, I try not to burn bridges. I mean,
Have
obviously,
you ever dealt with that type of situation where you had to burn bridges in the music industry?
in the music industry, maybe like once or twice, but like not even in a crazy messed up way. It's just more like, oh, I'm not really gonna work with you anymore. You know what I mean? Like it was never any like big blow up kind of thing. It was more just like, I don't really agree with maybe how this person does business, or I don't agree with like how they want to work, or creatively they don't fit. So it's like, I'm just gonna bye.
Right.
It's all love, but bye. You know what I mean? It's more like that. Because I don't really.
You operate like where it's like malice or fuck you.
Yeah, not really. Unless it's really.
Oh, the dominance like that. I'm with you, bro. Fuck them.
Nah. I mean, I'm learning though. Like
It's
part
like me too.
part of the journey though has been like learning boundaries though too, because
Yeah.
like I also have had to learn. Sometimes it's necessary
For you to push back.
to either push back or to cut off certain ties.
Facts.
And it's like it just is what it is. But at the same time, like most of the time, I'm gonna allow room for like it to be understood that sometimes people just aren't fit to work together, and that's fine. It's just not gonna work.
Right.
Or like if some messed up stuff happens or whatever, it's like, well, that's on you. Like that's a reflection of you and what you got going on. I don't have to be part of that. You know what I mean? But it's not like F you forever. You know what I mean? That's not really my thing for the most part.
I mean,
You know?
I'm with you on that, but there's certain people that I'd be like,
Nah, you be happy forever, bro.
I'd be no, I'm saying. There's
What's
certain,
your sign?
there's certain, I'm a Taurus,
Oh, that's why, because you stubborn as hell.
but
Once you think of your
but I'm loyal as hell too. So it's
loyal
like,
but
if you
stubborn, like
burn
once you
that
make up your
loyalty,
mind, it's like,
that's like once you do that, once you burn me, it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna have you in that cool list again. You know what I'm
like
saying?
it takes a lot. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this right now, because
What's your sign?
I'm a Gemini.
You got
but-
duality.
Huh?
You got duality.
That's
Two sides
exactly
to
why
you.
when you were talking about I used to have like a black and white pendant that was like yin and yang and all that stuff.
Alright,
But yeah, I I don't remember what I was gonna say, but
What were you gonna say about his sign?
Taurus. You was talking about signs. So I actually have a couple Taurus placements in my whole chart, And I know for a fact, like, I do have it in me too. What you're describing,
Right.
I have that within me, but it just takes a whole lot for me to get there.
My cutoff is real. Like, I'll cut you off, and then I don't know how
If
to
it
call
get-
you ever again.
Ever
like,
again.
You know?
Like, never, ever, ever. But the amount of times that's happened to me in my life is probably under 10,
See,
under
same with
5,
me, same with
maybe.
me.
Like,
but it's like, as of late, it's happened to me recently, right? Where a
Yeah.
few people. So it was like, the way I took it kind of hard because I hadn't had to do that in a long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the fact that I had to add a couple people to the
To the
you know,
list.
I was like, yo, I'm still dealing with this. It's still cutoff season.
Oh, man. He calls it
guess so.
cutoff season. It's a
Yeah,
whole
'cause,
season.
I mean, in that season of my life, it was really.
And then next thing you know, he was playing No Friends in the Industry.
Oh, my God.
It's because check it out. I had dealt with an addiction, so I got sober in 2021.
Yeah.
So like to this point, it was like to me, I thought cutoff season was when I got sober. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that we're 2 years in, to almost 3, and it's like, nah, bro, you're gonna have to cut off this out real quick, and then cut off this, and then like certain habits, and then people that it
Yeah.
was still. I thought cutoff season was over, but
But it continues.
yeah, it was like it's still there.
Cutoff season continues.
I think it was over after this last cutoff, but yeah, for sure. Cause I don't think I've had.
I don't know why I just, like-
shit got at it now. So
For some reason, when he was just cutoff season continues, I just pictured you as like a real life, like the Fruit Ninja game, where you're just like
Slicing everybody
slicing
up.
fruit. You just cut.
He's
You're cut off.
Getting
You're cut
combos
off.
and shit. Yeah.
You really need to get a green screen behind him. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
prices.
He's the most
We'll go
animated
viral
one.
for real.
That was actually one of my jobs in LA. I worked for this company called Sonic Box for like,
No wonder you had green screens all over you. with that.
man, yeah, like I have.
How does that work then?
Just put a green screen in, then you have to editing after that.
Yeah,
You
they.
gotta move this and-
Well, we
Chroma
could-
key, Luma key, whatever.
We
the hell
could change
is.
it in like real time because it was literally like it sounded like High School Musical in a building at first. Like there were just all these desks and everybody had a computer, and like the licensed shitty beats that we were allowed to sing over or whatever. And then everybody had a green screen and you could pick your background every day. It was 8-hour shifts. That shit was crazy. That was like one of the craziest jobs I've ever had in LA.
That's wild.
I just sat there and like I got so good at freestyling during the months that I worked there.
Oh, it was a few months you were there.
Yeah, but that was it. They eventually let me go because I was finding ways to kind of like cheat their system. Like they, because I
what
didn't like the
way?
contract. I was like, I don't trust it.
Oh shit.
So it was like they were trying to get us all to sing original music, and I was like, nope, that's not gonna happen. So I would just get on
sued
there
that way.
and pick a shit beat and freestyle as much as possible, and maybe like pick artists that they weren't popped off enough that they recognize
Yeah.
them, and then like harmonize with them for hours.
Yeah.
Start like a battle
You get
with
straight
some
to
of the
get
people
sued
in the
like
chat
that,
room.
using originals. Ugh.
Yeah, so that I don't know, but yeah.
Have you ever helped, basically, like help write a song for somebody, or like, at least like, reread it and like help, give your input on it?
Yeah, so that's kind of been I've experienced a little bit more writing for other people in the last few years. Getting called into sessions and kind of just being another mind in the session and all that. But I for a little bit I was working with an artist named Jarlene. And I'm trying to think of some other people that I worked with too. My mind's blanking right now. I think,
Ninja thing, huh?
yeah, I keep getting Fruit Ninja, like, just playing in the subconscious right now. But I can't think of names right now, which is horrible of me, but I have been in a lot of...
She did say she's not good at rating names. So.
Yeah, I need to work on that. I don't know what that is. Like,
I feel like it's just something that comes more.
I'm a face person, though.
Yeah.
I think that's me too, cause I'm
So you see the face and
no
you're like,
face, no case.
I know you. At least I don't do one of those corny like, how do you spell your name again? And it's
How
like
do
a
you
2-letter name. It was
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? Like somebody the other day, I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't remember your name, and he was like, it's a letter, and I was like, sorry. But yeah.
J.
To go back to the question, yes, I've written with other people for other people, been a part of their process, go in, help out with like lyrics. I actually helped LaDominique with a song
Really?
of his.
Damn, she was a ghostwriter for you, Dom?
Damn.
We
dang.
co-wrote it. It was
Oh.
actually a little R&B joint that he needs to release to the world soon. It's pretty fire.
Damn.
It's pretty fire. But yeah, so I'm always like trying to write with people. A lot more now.
When I heard the song as well for Nirvana, like I actually like the vocals in it. Like I feel like it's really
There
like
you got great reviews from the whole cast, right?
That makes me so happy. And I'm sure it makes him happy too. So, I'm really stoked about it.
Well, Olivia, thank you for being here. We appreciate you taking your time to be here and talk to us.
So much.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you the best in your musical career.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And Ninja Warriors.